Michael Redfield. Michael Redfield is an extremely talented actor, musician, father of 3, and founding member of Rogue Machine Theatre. His wife got tired of nagging him and finally wrote this bio for him. That tells you everything you need to know about both of them. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Redfield.
Goethe said, every situation, nay, every moment is of infinite worth, for it is the representative of a whole eternity. Well, I'm shedding worthy moments like a wild bitch sheds fleas. And statistically, I've only got about 40 years left. No matter what the wildly optimistic Time magazine or Ars Technica articles would have you believe. And that's hardly an eternity. April 2002, southern Vermont. I'm cruising a backcountry highway, the kind that is a foliage viewing dream in the fall and a frigid death trap in the melting spring. In my college car, a used Corolla station wagon. A station wagon that has served its purpose of getting me across the country and back a dozen times until, after a day of terrible skiing with a girlfriend in the hills above Burlington, I hit a patch of unsalted black ice. It had a weightless feeling. The pedals did nothing. Time took on a syrupy quality, a slow drift toward inevitable collision. But I wasn't panicked. I was 22. I actually intentionally swerved the wheels so that the impact struck my side instead of hers. The most Jack Ryan moment of my life to date. We're spinning into a snowbank, and I'm already thinking of the adrenaline-fueled orgasm coming my way. When we finally step out of the wreck, nerves shaken, loins stirred, because that's how the martini's poured when life is stretched out in front of you. 10 years ago, I met the girl who would change my life forever. 3 weeks later, I married her mother. After years of dating, when my soon-to-be fiancé and I announced we were having a baby, people offered well-meaning congratulations. Don't worry, no one ever feels ready. It's actually good you get the opportunity to grow up together. Statements nominally intended to give you courage, but really mean to illustrate that so far what you outwardly portray is a Peter Pan personality type and an apparent lack of prospects. But I was dumb and still having great first pregnancy sex. Belly is ballooning, but the tunnel's still tight. So the cautionary message may not have landed. The first car I can semi-exclusively call mine was a 1974 VW minibus. It had been a family car, and after years of use was sitting in the back drive, tires flat, cobwebs clogging the air vents. One year, Dad and I decided to rebuild the 2 carburetors, rehab the timing, get it to pass emissions, and voila! I was a high school kid with an ungainly stick-shift camper van with a spare tire nose and a nasty oil leak that no one else knew how to drive, and an awesome testosterone-fueled sense of accomplishment. Like a newly seeded lawn or a fresh coat of paint, the possibilities seemed endless. Sadly, its inability to make the cross-country college trek relegated it to the sale yard a few years later, and me to the aforementioned station wagon, which, surprised, the ice-speed snowbank totaled. I subsequently bought the exact same model wagon and drove that one for years after. It got me through college, numerous trips with and to see long-distance girlfriends, to and from dates with other local girls in the meantime, drunken benders, and the decision to forego graduate or medical school in favor of pursuing guaranteed financial success as an actor-musician. I used it to work for a messenger service owned and operated by none other than your illustrious host this evening, Ron Bottitta, and to haul lumber for the first productions of a new theater company called Rogue Machine. The messenger job was flexible as far as hours. Pre-iPhone, I carried a list of houses around the city with unsecured Wi-Fi, so I could check my email and cruise the breakdowns in between runs. Having a big car meant I got some of the big ticket deliveries, bolts of fabric, templates, furniture templates to the hills. I made $200 running a tabletop to Montecito. The perfect gig for a low-rent, aspiring actor going places. Places that were surely around the corner. The perfect job from which to cherry-pick anecdotes on his appearances on The Tonight Show or the publicist wrangled interview in LA Magazine. Then in 2006, I started dating my future wife, and with her came a sensible silver college girl compact Honda Civic. Even at 6 years old, it was clean and virtually unscratched because, well, she is a girl. It had a name. I have conveniently forgotten it. Shortly after the birth of our first child, I wrecked it. Apparently, the idea of my new family being forced into my, by now, barely street legal station wagon, whose hood was held down by a bundle of coiled up coat hangers. It tugged at my parents' heartstrings enough that they gifted us their 11-year-old sedan. A gift of enormous impact to the family trio, which became a full quartet before its windows stopped rolling down and its power steering became intermittent. We donated it to our local NPR station. You know, to support the local news and cultural reporting that we rely on to make decisions and stay informed. I could have made $500 at a scrap auction, and we didn't even itemize our taxes then, but it felt good and adult. The kind of thing that people feeling upwardly mobile do, right? I could even call myself a benefactor. That car was replaced with a sand-colored Prius. We went from 37 mpg to 50. We hadn't yet ruined the upholstery with melted crayons and Sharpie overruns. A leaky minibus to a hybrid in 15 years. 6 cars, increasing in mundanity and practicality, all tellingly given to me in one way or the other. Without my watching, the grass had really begun to grow, and the paint was getting drier by the day. This year, my eldest daughter turned 10, and I turned 40. The other day, with incredulity, I said to my wife, who I happened to notice was holding her phone at arm's length for the first time, not because she was surprised or disgusted by something on Facebook, but because she was having trouble seeing the damn thing. I said, honey, when Eden's a junior in college, I'll be 50. My wife replied, congratulations, you can do math. She may have been unfazed by my observation of approaching time and drugstore-acquired eyewear, but to me, it was a disconcerting signal of things to come, like a foghorn in the drear. My daughter also just read the Harry Potter books cover to cover, and I feel like she grew 7 years, the time it takes Harry to finish school and defeat his nemesis. We just threw her a Potter 10th birthday party, and all the floating candles and flying keys, the butterbeer and owls, I imagine they held more significance for me than her, because they meant she was growing up, then I was growing up. And I would start upping the font on my phone soon. Maybe I was finally going to graduate, not from Hogwarts, but from the curriculum of lofty youth and begin the graduate school of level-headed adulthood. That's one of the things that time does, right? It grinds great expectations into little bits. A few diamonds, perhaps, sprinkle the top of heap of black powdered carbon. With the ascendance of numerical age comes, by definition, the descendance of potential. I've been, though it's sort of ridiculous to be, blindsided by getting older and the gradual lowering of the bar that comes with it. I mean, it's really silly. You see it coming a mile away. I mean, being surprised by the passage of time is like being sideswiped by a glacier. It's like being mauled by a tree sloth. And yet, I wonder, what the fuck have I been doing with my time? My college classmates are publishing New York Times bestsellers. They're legal analysts and poetry critics on NPR, paid for by the donation of my car. And I'm a guy with an acting career that is slowly leaving the station while I wave from the platform, whining out loud in a theater in Venice about getting older. I don't have any exclusive claim to this territory, but I'm feeling it nevertheless. By 21, I was supposed to have founded the Facebook and starred in The Bourne Identity. By 30, I was supposed to have written my noir screenplay and made a wad playing the NASDAQ and composed a symphony that would stun the musical community. By 40, I should have become an accomplished architect, designed and built my own compound in the Berkshires, solved the infectious nature of chronic diseases, and started a charity that would eradicate the homeless crisis. I've always promised myself overachievement. So now I drive a minivan. It is stunningly conventional. It's thoroughly predictable. And it is the fanciest car I have ever owned. I do not have a dual exhaust Mustang like my bachelor editor friend, nor like my Microsoft Wunderkind buddy, a Carrera with 400 horsepower and a suspension that makes love to every curve. But I have an automatic trunk door and built-in Bluetooth. I have sensors that monitor the tire pressure on each wheel independently. I have a backup camera. And I can drown out my kids fighting by flipping down not one, but 2 in-car TV screens. But these do not a life make. Steve, the NPR law professor, probably happily pulls in his humble Camry into his spot on campus. And Tess, the poetry critic, when she wants to get out of the city, surely rents a forest green Outback because, well, love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. For the present, adulting means having kids, having a mortgage, weathering the first 10 years of marriage, going through cars and going through diapers. It's home values and HELOCs, growing feet and growing herb gardens, barking shins and barking retrievers. Now, those might actually be the moments of infinite worth. Not because I'm settling for them, but because they are the moments that actually exist. Mowing the fully grown grass and touching up the cracked, long-dried paint. Bigger and brighter isn't necessarily better when it comes to life. It's the quality of the doing, not the size and burnish of things being done. I don't know if we speed through time or time speeds through us. I don't drive what I used to. Nor what I will when this one runs out of miles. But there are still blue highways on the map waiting to make the extra time worth the trip.
What a catch, eh?